to mute if you can as well too. But it's good hearing and seeing everyone here. My name is Oswaldo Mestri, and I am the executive director of the Division of Citizen Services. And we've been bringing Block Chat for you for, Debbie, how long has it been? Maybe almost 2 years now, a
Yeah.
little longer than that. We've done quite a few Block Chats, ranging from governmental services. We've had information about disaster preparation. We've had information regarding healthcare, different speakers to talk about different things, to make some connections in the community, working very closely again with the Border Block Clubs of Buffalo and Erie County. Honestly, I call Border Block Clubs a nucleus of engagement that is happening within the city. They are everywhere, and they are residents and community members who are just banded together on a myriad of different issues, and we're just happy to have them. We've been doing this jointly with them as well. When we say we bring speakers, it's really about making connections. We started this during the pandemic. We said we needed to get information out, but we also wanted to learn what was happening in the community. And so we started our block chats that happen on Fridays. We record them. We share that back out with community members and block club members, but there's a lot of great information. We post information about what's happening during the week and what's happening in weeks to come. And also with our unique division, the Division of Citizen Services, not only talking about engagements, our clean sweeps, we also run our 311 call and resolution center. We have relationships with other call centers such as 211 and a few other organizations. And so we always are inviting of organizations who want to come and spend some time and let's share about what they're doing. And just can't say enough for our ongoing relationship that we have, and we've been doing this for a while. And so today we have a great speaker, somebody that I've gotten to know, somebody who is not only competent what they're doing, but they're caring about what they're doing and skilled. When we're talking about preparation, whether it be during disasters or emergencies, you always have to have kind of a point person or somebody that has a degree of knowledge and somebody who's quarterbacking. He hit the ground running, to be quite honest, and he'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about some of our, we've had some meetings about lessons learned, and then also about forecasting in the future. And there's one event that's happening that's unique in Buffalo, where I think somebody said we're like in the epicenter here, this solar eclipse, and he's going to talk a little bit about that, and for folks not to necessarily take it lightly. So we're going to introduce him in a quick second. Let me bring up Nicole Brown from our office. She's our administrative officer. She's going to just take us through some announcements and the things that are happening here in the city of Buffalo. Then we also have some other updates from other, perhaps, department heads as well. So, Nicole?
Thank you, Director Mestre. I'm going to try to share my screen with you guys. And let me know when you guys can see it. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, kind of.
Okay.
We got you.
Perfect. Okay, so sorry, this computer's a little laggy. So we have some announcements from the Division of Citizen Services. So just reminding everybody that the Talk of the Town with Mayor Brown is Sundays at 1 p.m. You can catch it on WUFO, Power 96.5, or on the mayor's Facebook page at facebook.com/Mayor Byron Brown. And so we did just wrap up our toiletry donation drive here in the city of Buffalo. And one of my colleagues is going to chime in right here, Ms. Malika Lee, the External Affairs Manager, and just let you know how this toiletry drive went and how well we did with this initiative. Malika.
Thank you, Nicole. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Malika Lee. I'm the External Affairs Manager here in the Division of Citizen Services. So as you all know, we did a toiletry drive. It was very successful. So I would like to thank everyone who was a part of the toiletry drive. I want to specifically thank Sam and Billy, who is our AmeriCorps Vista, who helped put the drive together. She was very instrumental in making sure that we were successful. We want to report that we did collect over 1,500 items throughout the city of Buffalo. For this drive, the donations will be going to the Cold Blue shelters, both Cold Blue shelters, as well as the city mission. to help support those efforts to make sure that the unhoused have the toiletries that they need when they are utilizing those facilities. So again, we'd like to thank everybody who donated. We'd like to say a special thanks to our key donators, one being Twipes, who donated over 200 packs of toiletry wipes, sanitary wipes, as well as the New York State Laborers Union, who donated 40 bags of toiletry items to the community. So I'd like to thank those folks. We also did an internal competition where we got City Hall involved and made sure that we did something fun for the folks here in City Hall. And we would like to thank parking, civil service, and the Division of Citizen Services, who were the top three contributing offices within the city of Buffalo for their donations. And we have also, well, I would also like to thank Paula's Donuts and Mr. Pizza, who donated something special to those departments that took part in that friendly competition that we had in City Hall. Thank you all again for donating. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Sam, for putting it together.
Thank you, Malika. And so also we just want to talk a little bit about an upcoming initiative next Saturday. So the Black Men's Empowerment Summit, and my two colleagues, Michael Smith and Ron Dixon, either one wanted to interject and say a little bit about this Empowerment Summit and why it is incredibly important to share out and have guests register for this. So either Michael or Ron.
Yeah, I don't mind interjecting. So this is supposed to be a direct response, right, to the Tops mass shooting, where it was targeted the African American community on Jefferson Avenue, and so this is a way to respond to them and bring resources to that area. And so there are going to be 7 key areas that this is going to be featured. This summit day is going to feature. And it's going to feature mental health and fitness, insurance and investments, legal, job readiness and education, credit worthiness, personal credit, business credit, home ownership. And then it's also going to feature health literacy or prostate cancer, more specifically. And so this is supposed to be a day-long event of learning, empowering individuals in that community. And then there is going to be an open brunch from 1 to 3, which is open to everyone. But the summit itself is closed from 9 to 1, and then from 1 to 3, the brunch is open to the communities and sponsors to come and support. And so the flyer on the right, which is the light blue flyer, that's the brunch flyer. It has anyone can sign up for the brunch flyer from 1 to 3. And the flyer on the left is actually the summit flyer, which is closed to predominantly men of color to be able to participate in this day-long event.
All right, sorry about that. Thank you, Ronald. So everybody, please share this flyer and help get people registered. So we also just wanted to point out we are still having AmeriCorps Vistas join our team. They can make a difference. So if there is anybody that may be interested or that you want to share this with, please contact Ms. Malika D. Lee, the External Affairs Coordinator. And we do also need volunteers. They can join the Good Neighbors Network. And to learn more about that initiative, you can scan the QR code or contact Michael Smith, the Save Our Streets Task Force Coordinator. The bulk trash spring collection schedule is out and online on the website, on the city website. You can also find this on our Facebook as well as the Board of Block Club's Facebook. And so it is going to start in Ellicott District on April 7th. And bulk trash must be placed out on the Sunday listed for your district. If you are looking to start a block club, please contact the City of Buffalo and Erie County Board of Block Clubs. You can email bobcbuffalo@gmail.com. They have a phone number, a Facebook, and an Instagram, and they are responsive on all platforms as well. We do encourage you to register with them if you do have a block club already. There is the East Side Forward Expo, Clean Mobility Buffalo, coming up on March 16th. So you can join neighbors and friends for an afternoon of family-friendly activities, learn about the clean mobility transportation improvement that's underway throughout the East Side. a senior technology training program. It's going to be happening in various states in March, April, and May. You can receive hands-on practice with topics such as they mentioned here, email, smartphone, etc. And these are free classes. So you can sign up and you can contact Alhana Porter at the email listed there. And if you are in need of free income tax assistance, the UB School of Management is offering this on various dates as well. And you can email the email listed on screen or call the number listed. And we will also have these flyers sent out to those of you who registered on BlockChat. There's a historic homeowner tax credit workshop. So if you live in a historic district and you're planning a home repair in 2024, this workshop might be for you. It is a webinar on Zoom. If you RSVP, you will receive the link to this. And there are 3 different dates that this is happening. And so you can go to preservationbuffaloniagara.org or scan the QR code here on screen. Lunenfeld grants. So there are grants available for public garden projects. Applications are due March 15th. They provided more than 130,000 for beautification projects. So you can learn more about this and apply at gardensbuffaloniagara.com /grants and find out more. So of course, we do have social media where we share out a lot of different events and initiatives happening. So you can follow us on Facebook at Buffalo Citizen Services, as well as on Instagram at Buffalo 311. You can follow our 311 Call and Response Center page on Facebook as well at Buffalo 311. And we do have our Love Your Block page. And we also encourage you to follow Mayor Byron Brown on Facebook at Mayor Byron Brown and on Instagram at Mayor Byron Brown 716. And then, of course, if anybody has flyers that they would like to share, I will put my email in the chat box and please share them to me and we will share them on our next block chat. As
Nicole, thank you very much for that information. I just want to echo, if there's any information that you may have that you believe that community members can benefit from it, or you want to share information that can get to the community, please let us know. Share that with Nicole. We share that with our network during Block Chat and even after Block Chat, and we'll make sure that information gets to that. Just want to follow up. We are doing crime prevention through environmental design SEPTEP classes throughout the city. Mr. Ron Dixon has been holding those. We've had 2 successful ones, and we're going to be starting doing a few more, really about educating people on those techniques that people can find sometimes simple or sometimes just obvious, and there's really giving them the theory behind that. That SEPTEP training is very important. We are going to be beginning our clean sweep season. We're working with councilmen and block clubs and community members. We're pinpointing areas in the community that we can bring city government, city hall right into the community, effectuate the community, deal with it, deal with all of the concerns, and then kind of go back and visit, help set up a block club. And we do this with our law enforcement partners. We do this with our community partners. Building inspectors is a really intense but a very rewarding practice here. Many of you have gone on our clean sweeps, and we've really, really appreciative of that. And then, of course, I Love Your Block mini grants that are out currently right now that people have participated. So those are a few things that we're doing in-house that we're sharing out as well, too. So I did want to take an opportunity before we brought our speaker in. He works in this department. I wanted to just take a moment and pause. Today is the remembrance of Jason Arnold, firefighter out of Engine Number 2, who lost his life in the active service, fighting a fire. So I wanted to just acknowledge that today and share the fact that many of our personnel who are, whether it be firefighters or police or emergency responders, their duty never stops. They're always on, and just grateful for their sacrifice. But more specifically, Jason Arnold, just wanted to take a moment and just acknowledge him. Well, thank you. This next speaker, again, I've gotten an opportunity to know him. And one thing that I have come away with that is that we're a much better city by having him here. He just brings a lot of technical know-how, but also some common sense virtues to dealing with concerns. As you know, we're a resilient city, the city of Buffalo. We deal with many different things. We're understanding now that when we're dealing with snow and we're dealing with storms, it's a little more intense. And so our efforts have to match that. And so we have always been kind of working on different layers within the city of Buffalo, working externally with some of our other governmental partners, such as the county and the state, and also the feds, but also working with external partners like block clubs and other kind of organizations that are essential organizations that are out there, whether it be faith-based organizations or that. All of that means that we have to coordinate and we have to communicate better. And that's the one thing I don't want to take away from his talk and speech, but that's the one thing that comes away when I have met him and how he has coordinated with us. He's my fellow New Yorker. I do appreciate him being on. Let me introduce our emergency coordinator for the city of Buffalo, Mr. Luby. Take it away. It's your show.
Thanks, Hans. Thank you. Good morning, Joel. Good afternoon, everyone. So my thing is just basically we're going to do some little overview, and then we'll do some questions and answers. And bottom line is I want an open discussion. I didn't want to do a PowerPoint. I want that feedback. I wanted to learn from what you got and where do we go from the next steps. The big thing, and to echo on what Oz stated, yes, I want to get to know as much as I can now in the blue sky environment than when it's the gray sky, when I don't have that capability and I'm up against the rock and the hard place, the proverbial statement of doing services, who could do what and where. And the big thing I do have a passion for is getting out to the community. I think that's very vital. I always refer to it as the three-legged stool. The city speaks to the community speaks to 311, and that whole we provide the essential services. So April 8th is coming up. It's a Monday. It's called the totality or the total eclipse or something thereof. And the city of Buffalo is earmarked to be the creme of the creme. Best viewing spot, longest amount of time. Maybe there's only one other state that beats us by 15 seconds. So we're total time will be 3 minutes and 45 seconds. The one state that's south is in the Carolina area is like 4 minutes. But other than that, we have this is really like Times Square. This is Hollywood that you're going to be in here. So it's going to start partially at 2:30. The partial eclipse will start, so half the sky will start to get dark as she incrementally goes across. By 3:18, it will be over the three-quarters of the city, and then by 3:22 should be in total darkness, and then by 4:30, in that area it'll go further north and everything. So what do we do, right? So we're going to have a mass influx of visitors. We have a mass influx of those who follow the eclipse around the country throughout the whole year. Last time was in 2017, was a big eclipse. A lot of lessons learned, and we incorporated that into the task force planning. So the roads are going to be packed no matter what we do or how best we prepare for. We know there's going to be traffic jams and traffic stops. So all the agencies that we'll work with, the federal, state, county, and other private partners, was to try to keep the region moving. But unfortunately, we know what's going to happen. When one stops, you can't, then another one's going to stop, etc. So we can do our best, but most of this stuff is going to be dictated based on how the people move around. So for those where you live in the city, you have the optimal view. So I would strongly suggest that, you can sort of, how you prepared for the last storm in January, right? The mayor got on the press briefings and he spoke to, if you have any prescriptions that need to be filled, instead of waiting for the weekend to go do it, fuel up your car, get some additional food. So if we follow that same mindset here and start doing it incrementally before it gets prior to the 8th, because the way I'm figuring for the city is that everyone's going to start coming in on that Thursday, definitely Friday, Saturday, right? And then all of a sudden, you won't be able to move around as quickly. People are going to be getting lost going through your neighborhood. We all know that. And you should be able to still make some contact, but go through the stores or whatever. But you might have to go a little further, and then you get caught up in this thing. So no matter where you are, I would just have a barbecue, hang outside. The weather now is what they're saying is going to be very warm, and the cloud cover is going to be a little bit more favorable, where before that was always a questionable mark, and they were saying that it was going to be a cold, typical Buffalo April of what they called it. That's how it's described and whatnot. So it's on the look up, and you know, the temperature will drop when you're in the total eclipse. It can go up to from 7 degrees up to 20 degrees, variance in the lower scale. So you're gonna get a little chilly. The animals, you know, wildlife and your pets may or may not experience some sort of um, uneasiness, or they might not be so following directions and everything. So it's going to affect people in all different ways. So just be cognizant of it. But the bottom line is that if we look at this as a preparedness exercise, to get ahead of the curve instead of waiting until the month of September, which is National Preparedness Month, where we do a communications plan, we take care of our pets, we notify whatever medicines we need, etc. So in the case of emergency, if we have to evacuate or we have to relocate or someone or whatever, we have our own individual communication plan on how to make contact and how to have those essential documents, etc. So if we use this example for this, the eclipse as a precursor to do some of the legwork, see if it works, and then we got to practice your plan of notification. When it comes around to September, you'd be good to go. So it's a good thing on here. Just remember that when the eclipse does occur, and as it's starting to go anywhere from 2:30 all the way into 3:22, 3:25 p.m., the cell phones are going to most likely, high probability that they're going to drop, they're going to fall apart. Meaning, so you will not be able to get your cell, you won't be able to call your loved ones, whatever the case may be. However, if you remember, during any time of disaster, if you text, the text is on a different frequency or a different it's not on digital, it's like on an analog system. So the texting will get through quicker than you waiting on the line for the cell. So think of it, it's almost like a quasi hub lane that everyone is on there. It has a better way of communicating. So if trying to find someone that if you happen to come down through the city and actually witness the event, and then all these people, the crowd moves and you need a rally point, whatever case may be, identify that first. But in the event that you should get lost, always text. Like I said, by the time you're on the phone, waiting for the phone to go through, get the cell, etc., it's not going to happen. It's just going to get very frustrating, right? And then you also too, you might have someone on there that happens to tie up that cell that's streaming and streaming live video, which is going to eat up a lot of that bandwidth that's on that cell tower. So when in doubt, always do it. And if you have to, sometimes it's just a good practice just to reset your phone. Just turn it off, turn it back on, and let it reconnect. Right? These are just simple things that we do that we get accustomed to. And so the thing is that, as you stay calm, but as long as you have all these little checklists or whatever you want to, little procedures on how to make a bad situation better, you'll stay focused and you stay calm, and then you'll be able to drive wherever you got to go. So look, all honesty, it's going to be a great day. It's once in a lifetime. Enjoy it. Have a lot of fun. Just make sure you get the glasses. Do not want to look up there because your retinas will be burned. And if you go to ER, those doctors are going to they're not going to look at you immediately. So that's going to be a time you're going to sit there in the ER. So that based on what the hospitals are saying, it's not a priority for the hospitals if where the people that get eye burned, the retina gets burned from the eclipse at this time. So you'd be just sitting there in the stack of everything. So everyone's preparing for the worst scenario, which is good, so that we could always downscale, right? So we put all the resources where they need to be strategically and functional. We could always de-escalate them and put them back into other areas and rotate them around, rather than going from we didn't prepare properly and then also we need like more people. So the latest number now is approaching the 2 million mark. Originally, when I got involved in this, was about 1.5 to 2, and then 2 was kind of like not really there. 2 is now becoming more of because of the climate, the weather change, etc. Is coming more of the new snap, the chalk line of who's going to be in here. So at the million mark, that's 4. It's over 4 plus, 4 times over the population of the city of Buffalo. So she's going to be tight. That's why we say like fill up your car, get some extra food. Things of that nature, and you just stay at your house and watch it. No matter where you are, you're not going to you're not going to have a bad viewing site at all. So where the emergency manager comes into the community and the relationship is, it's that whole community approach, right? So we want to engage the community process in itself, so that we understand, or I understand, your needs, and how do I communicate, and how do I get you through that life cycle during a disaster of some sort, whether it's a natural or other type of incident, whatnot. So I have to understand your complexity of the various areas, which I'm getting around a little better than when I first showed up here. Um, so a lot of this stuff is going to be like preparedness outreach, which we're going to roll out once we get past the eclipse, which is taking up a lot of time. So by introducing and getting on to Oz's on calendar for this thing was the mere factor. Start the talking, like, let's start the chatter now, and then find out what you guys really need from your clubs and how I can support you as your customer service rep to give you that quality. So during an incident or whatever the case may be, we can relay information, or you can give us information on site, and then we can work towards that way, right? Because you are my eyes and ears wherever you may be. All right. I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm looking at the whole city and looking at the interjurisdictional relationships that are going to support us, or we're supporting them. So the community to me is very, very important. It's very integral on preparedness and the overall response. And just basically, it's by understanding the complexity, and it helps build out that entire framework of what the whole community approach is all about. And the bottom line is that, I always look at when I meet people, I look at it as we're making a partnership. It's not a one and done, how you doing, and we'll see you later. It's we'll see each other, and we'll continue this dialogue, and we'll continue to build some great things together. And overall, we will move that, some people that I work with or been around with, you always hear me talk about on the football field, moving the chains to get that first down, right? We need 10 yards to get that first down. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. It's a slow process. We're not going to get there overnight, but we can make incremental changes where, when we look at disaster response or disaster preparedness, it's an ownership. Everyone has to assume a certain portion of the ownership. But when you look at the national preparedness goal, it's not someone going to come in and give you that blanket to protect all. So everyone has to own, once they own it, once they understand what they have to do and how they own it, then it moves that, gets us closest to the next first down. It's not hard. It's just a matter of getting education as far as understanding this preparedness, understand the response. What do we do for our family, and how do we recover from this point going in here? And then, the underlying factor that even faces the city is this climate resiliency, right? We just saw in January, January 13th through January 19th, you had those two storms that were back to back. And the amount of snow, ironically, so Buffalo always comes as being number 3 in the country for the most snowfall. 2 locations, one is Anchorage, and there's another one in Alaska being in the number 1 and number 2 spots. So for over a given year, Alaska still remained as first and second. Buffalo, in that January 13th through the 19th, made the number 3 spot, held on to the number 3 spot, which you guys always do. So these are the new storms that are facing here. So the storm, which made it so difficult, it was very challenging, and you had to be careful, is because they call these things called oscillating bands. So they're not straight. It's like a big loop that keeps on going back and forth. And because it didn't line up, and because it couldn't be really pinpointed down, you had the wind gusts, the snowfall, and other oscillating factors that are coming off the polar vortex, which is on the top by the North Pole. It's very hard to pinpoint what area gets affected. And then facing that, there was narrow bands. So the narrow bands, what it meant on that was that it's very small confined location of heavy downfall of snowfall. So some areas got plastered, and then it would move incrementally slow. And this was changing constantly things. So the strategies and the tactics that were deployed, you had to really be careful, because you could be putting someone else in the wrong way. And then you add in the 60-mile-an-hour gust sustained winds on the gust, just added more fuel to the fire, right? So it made it even more difficult. And then you looked at the other day, right? The other day, there was a 42-degree drop difference, right? We went from 60, almost it was time to bring out the sandals and shorts, right? And then by 4 o'clock or so, or 4 o'clock, she was dropping. And then by the time it finally bottomed out at 7 p.m., she was at 40, we dropped 42 degrees. So these are the new climate resiliency issues that we're facing here. And coming up with the new season, right now we were in El Nino, which means a warmer winter for up here and a less active hurricane season. So what that means to Buffalo going forward, in middle of March, early April, we're going to go to El Nino, which means it's going to be very cold winter and heavy snow in the northern up here, Buffalo and Canada. And we're going to be more susceptible to these other type of events. And the one risk that poses to Buffalo is tornadoes. So it's a high percentage of plausibility of us being affected by more tornadoes in the northeast central United States corridor, right, going on here. For those who live on I-95 corridor on the eastern seaboard, Atlantic area or over in the Pacific, that means more of a heavy, aggressive tropical cyclone formation, which means more hurricanes. Where we are geographically, we don't, the odds of us getting a hurricane are very slim, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to get the fallout from these bands that are traveling. Even though the hurricane came on land, it's still that these bands that follow with the intensity and the rainfall and wind and everything else is combined, that we could be receptive, which is actually sometimes worse than actually getting hit by the hurricane. So this is how we got to prepare the communities. We got to prepare the city better. In just 2 months, look what we already got hit with, right? So this is where we're focusing on. This is where that interaction or the connectivity between the city and the block clubs and the co-ads and everyone else that are out there. This makes us a better, more resilient city and resilient for the people that live here and whatnot, right? At the same time, enjoy the weather and have a good time. But we have to be prepared for these things that just happen out of, thin air. That was not expected to come in as bad as it did. And then within 24 hours, she was already spinning wheels and then she's out in 48. So, the damage, we got lucky. The damage that could have been much worse than what you suffered in the January storm based on that incident that we just experienced this past week. But these are what we have to do. So if we are prepared as a community, prepared as an individual, we'll sustain the storm. So what do you have? What questions do you have for me? What are you looking to do?
No, Tom, I was gonna mention. No, thank you. I was writing down notes. I'm gonna encourage people that if they have any questions, kind of just type them out and we can kind of call on you, just put them out and we can kind of do that. But a couple of questions I had. So I'm hearing preparation and you can't be prepared enough, right? Both as a city, but also what we are saying is prepared in place in terms of those neighborhoods and those communities. And so still making sure that we do those things ahead of time. As what I'm hearing is that everybody's looking at get prepared. And that's when the crunch, right? That's when everybody goes to the store, everybody does this and that and that.
Right.
And so I think the city I think the county has done a better job. We was always doing a good job, but about letting people know what's happening ahead of time. Obviously we rely on the news, but sometimes people don't have the sophisticated information that we may have. We've just been putting that information out. So on a local level, and I think you mentioned this, how can people who live in households or on neighborhoods or on streets, what are some of the simple things that they can do when we look at what the face of an emergency or disaster or potential, right? We keep on saying disasters, emergencies, but we're dealing with the potential because we never know how the severity of if it's going to be maybe just a small or a big one. I don't know if you can use the word disaster. I don't know if you use small or big. The word is disaster, right? So let me know what you think.
Yeah, no, that's good. So the thing here is that the Buffalo alerts, the communication that's coming out from the city has become a lot more aggressive. So things that I get, I push it through, and that's where you get those Buffalo alerts. So if they're coming through like that, there's something that I'm tracking. I'm usually tracking things ahead of time, but when it hits the Buffalo alerts, it's pretty there. So the normal consensus, like how I prepare my house, it's usually 72 hours that you would have, goods, paper goods and some food that's non-perishable and items like that you just stack away and store. Things that you heat up and get you through 72 hours of, of the incident, because like I said, everyone races to the supermarkets, and we've all done that. And you see aisle after aisle, and it's a ghost town, right? And everyone goes after the things, and they buy 20 loaves of bread, which is they go over the pendulum swings too far over. So just think of the things that you need. Some of the stuff that you just keep it stable and keep it locked up, not locked up, but keep it in your closet somewhere. Some of the paper goods, some of the things that, soup is always good to get you through the day like that. And other non-perishable items. So in the event that you happen to lose electricity, you still have alternate methods to eat or whatever, or take them to someone else's house and who has power that's nearby,
Yeah.
as long as it's,
No,
the roads are passable.
what I've learned also too is finding your communication tree or knowing who you're going to be
Mm,
communicating. You should never know what that is during a disaster or an emergency, right? You should already have that pre-prepped up, whether it be numbers or you should be knowing how to get in contact with loved ones. During the storm, we had emergency shelters, and the great thing about that, people knew ahead of time. They said, you know what, let me temporarily go here because I just know where I'm going to be at may be a challenge, right? And I think some of those things work too. And I think those are the things as a community, right, that we can do. Obviously, the city has a responsibility. Different layers of government has responsibilities, whether it be the county or the state or the feds, right? We're here to make sure that we are undergirding some of the activities that's going on. You mentioned this word COAD. Maybe you should explain what that is, right?
sure.
I know that's kind of inside speak a little bit, but what is a COAD? And I know you're part of the one that's here in Erie County, and we talk and communicate with other partners as well.
So the thing is, so if you go, so the thing that which you bring out, so if you go to ready.gov and you research communication plan or family plan, that will run you through a template of where you put all your key contact information, um, and all the necessary. It'll walk you straight through it, and then it's printable, and then you can put some of it into your wallet or put it somewhere in your house. So when you go to have to relocate or go somewhere else, you just take that item with you. It tells you, explain how to do it. But if you go to ready.gov, that starts the process on how to start doing the preparation point and filling in that information, that critical information that, we don't always remember. And also too, it's a hard copy, and your phone might be dead or whatever the case may be, which everyone stores their information in, right? The COADS is the cooperative organizations assisting during disasters. So this would be could be something like the Catholic Charities 211, Red Cross is a home mess. Feeding America is part of that. If I got Feeding Buffalo, I think, or whatever is the correct title, I get it always mixed up. So they provide these other assistances to those in the community that are affected by disasters or routine through various crises that occur. They provide the services free of charge, sort of concept. So they provide that other layer to helps me do what I can do best, and then I can actually take those who are affected by whatever the incident may be. I can focus them into those direction, or hook them up with a counselor, or hook them up with special services, whether it's residential or some sort of a living environment, get those other additional things that I can't afford to give them because it's not my wheelhouse, right? That's why the COAD people are designed to do that humanitarian effort better than I can. And that's their focus. That's the creme of the creme. And I will tap them as we go through all this process. And once I have an opportunity, thank God we didn't. So we're looking good there. But if an opportunity arises, I know who to contact and how to, and then they can focus and go down the highway with them.
I think that's great information. There's a question that's in here. Are there plans for CERT trainings for neighborhoods? I know in the past, we're talking very much in the past, we had some search training. I think that is federal government via the state government. I know we've had some communication with our Buffalo Fire Department. We're working with Niagara Border Community Services. And so I think the potential is there. And I think maybe that's something that we probably can talk a little more about,
Sure.
in terms of what that looks like. But maybe, I don't know if you want to take a crack at that.
Yeah, I'll tell you. It's kind of ironic. I think you read my notes.
Mhm.
So in the federal government, I created their first CERT team. They never had a CERT team for the organization, for the agency. So I did it for the National Institute of
Let me say,
Health.
you created the first CERT teams?
For the National Institute of Health, the first federal one, not the actual whole, not the
Okay.
whole thing across, but for the National Institute of Health,
No, listen,
National
man, that's
National
great.
National Cancer Institute. I was working there, and it was just it was just a mess. How they responded and all this other stuff. So they hodgepodge. So I got funding, um, and we were the first ones to put that online. When I was in the city of New York Fire Department, um, were part of the CERT through New York City Office of Emergency Management, where we would coordinate and we would do the fire portion, and then we would do other instructional items with it. To be honest with you, I didn't want to put that on the table as of yet. I didn't think we were there yet, but the CERT team has a lot of value to it. It's worked with us. We worked with it in New York City, where in all the various, they don't call it communities. It's like they call it community boards, like you guys would call them as the block clubs. And each
Hmm.
borough will have a few of them, and they run them, and they participate in the emergencies. They participate in actual exercises. Some do, based on the incident. They will be represented in the emergency operations center in the city of New York. There's a lot of value to them, and there's a lot of good benefit that comes out of it, because the object of why CERT was designed, it came out of the Bush administration, was exactly that. This is things that occurred after September 11th, that the first responders couldn't get to the community. So how do we help those in need, whether it's medical, law, or fire? How do we give them like basic tools to do the job and be the first ones there? So we prevent things from being escalated. We can save lives. Very minuscule stuff, but those tools, you don't have to be a doctor. They actually work, and they work well. I see it, I researched when I got here. I was researching it, and I came up empty with it. It's not a hard lift. It's, a couple of weeks of training, but the end result, and then the practicing, and then going through the foundation, it really builds teamwork, and it really builds that connection between, which would be the city versus the location of where all these teams may be and whatnot.
So,
And
so
then,
Tom, let's make it.
go
So
ahead, Nick.
Tom, let's make a commitment. Because I'm young enough to tell you in the city, I've been cert trained, cert to a cert training and certified. My staff was looking into it, so let's work. My office work with yours.
Yep.
Let's see what we can do to
Yeah,
produce that here for residents in Buffalo.
sure.
And so I would tell those who are inquiring regarding the search, stay tuned. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, just get me through the eclipse.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll work that
and then, yeah, because I already looked and I already researched on where we would have to go, and who the alliance and allegiance would be. So it's not a hard lift at all. But no. And
out.
then there was
We'll
another
work
one
with.
it was another one that was an ICS orientation, very light. Wasn't thing I was going to push for that too. That's just like was like an hour, was like a 4-hour class or whatnot, stuff like that. So it was just to lay the foundation before I got into the cert, but we can knock them both out. Um,
Mhm.
as a prerequisite and stuff, but it's a lot of good stuff in there. It really is.
My department, we did a Citizens Academy before. There's
Right.
many here who are part of that. Called it the Citizens Participation Academy.
Mhm.
And so we'll endeavor to work with you, work with block clubs and those entities to do that, to produce something here. Thank you, Frank, and then thank you for Kurtz. I'm always mindful when we use these acronyms, right? That people know what those are,
Oh,
but it's Unity Emergency Response Teams. And I'm going to tell you, being in Buffalo as long as I have, we have the nucleus of this. We have a lot of all of the pieces here. We go out in the community, engagement, we do a whole bunch of things. So yes, we will. And matter of fact, stay tuned. We'll put a QR code out. We put folks and we'll sign people up. Let us put the curricula together and put that. We're going to reach out to some of our other governmental partners as well, and we're going to make that happen. So,
Brother,
I don't like to make news here, but I think we're real close, Tom. You and I, we can, and my staff, we can kind of make this happen. We'll include the
yeah, and
other
not
staff.
just not just that, but I mean, we'll tie it into a specific other academic um, institution where they have people that they take this as part of their discipline, and studies for the bachelor's, et cetera, degree, bachelor's and associates. So, you talk about the whole community approach. We're helping those in the school process, the academia, to actually do something like this, and then you actually have the end result where you can actually trial and test it, evaluate it, and implement it in the community. So it's just a good approach all the way around. But yeah,
I
the
want to
whole matter.
circle back around real quick. We talked about disaster. We talked about being prepared. We talked about a little bit about your role within government. We only a little bit. I went to talk a little bit about that, but I want to go back to the eclipse here, right?
Sure.
For everything that I read and what you just said, we are in a sweet spot, right?
Mhm.
You know, the city of Buffalo, the way it's going. What I'm hearing is that it's going to get dark. It's going to get pitch dark,
Yes,
everything, and then it's going to kind of gradually come back.
correct.
I know the county executive was encouraging businesses to participate. One of the things that we understood that during the emergency or whatever is just not residents. We needed businesses to participate, people working or not, maybe different layers. I know 3-1, we're probably going to have extended hours, to be quite
Yes.
honest, because we need to be responsive to people. So anything else that people need to know, what I'm hearing is like, listen, stay home, watch it, be careful about, that's the other thing. Can't stare into it because you're going to be burning your retinas. We don't want to do
Correct.
that.
Correct.
If you can get the glasses, there's I think
There
the
really
Science
is.
Museum is giving them away, a couple other places. We're going
Yeah.
to have somebody on our
London.
block chat from there, I think we're going to probably try to purchase some and give those out to block clubs as well.
Yes.
So yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So the whole thing is exactly, as the way you did it. You're spot on. The library also gives them away to give them 2 at a time. So you have to go 5 days to get 10 pairs, so to speak, or whatnot. I'm serious. Like I couldn't even, use my status, whatever it may be, to get additional, but I was only allowed 2, so that's pretty cool. But I understand things. So the thing about the majority of where the first thing that was getting into this, a lot of schools were closing, and then Buffalo schools finally got it because they didn't want the children to be let out at the time of the total eclipse being going on here, right? So different things. The other thing is that if you are on the road and you have a newer car, like from 2018 and up, that has the automatic headlights, they might not come on. So when it gets dark, it might be just a good habit to put into manual mode where you where you illuminate your own vehicle lights, your headlights, because there's some on the lessons learned, they didn't always trigger it. So they were riding around, and so that was a cause of accidents and stuff like that. So a lot of places are starting to look at working at home. That's, one of the big things that came out of the pandemic was the work at home program, right? Before that used to be reserved in special honor for only certain executives, certain level of people. And then the pandemic came, and then people had to switch gears and work at, reverse the whole mindset. So that was if you want to talk about a good takeaway, that set up a precursor for everything going forward. So places of doing that, the hospitals, they're starting to cut back, or they have the people who need dialysis machines. They're going to bring them in no later than that Sunday, so that they're done, so they can get them through. And then by the time everyone disappears on the return out of here, they'll be ready to be scheduled again. Doctors' offices, they're going to have them closing by noon or getting all their patients out by noon, so that for the most part, the travel will be 12 o'clock. The only issue that I really see is probably not the people coming in. It's going to be a heavy one. It's going to be the mass exodus going out from the 9th and 10th, et cetera, because all these people are going to go flood here, flood north, go into Canada, whatever it may be, and chase it. And then all of a sudden you're going to have that big influx. So we have things designed to help facilitate and move that traffic. At the same time, just FYI, what's going on, it's like crazy stuff. Niagara skydivers are going to be going through the eclipse, skydiving from 9 o'clock on, straight through the eclipse. Delta Airlines will be flying from the lower end of Texas straight through the eclipse. It's $600, and then they just drop you off. It's no return flight. Other airlines are refiling flight plans to travel through the eclipse, so that when they go to deplane at the location where they're going, they just did a little bit of a precursor. So for the most part, the airports
Can
are
we
not
charge these guys a little more? We need the money. Can't we do something in Buffalo, like park here and
I mean, it just gets silly each time. But then they're thinking that the people in the airport are gonna be going in there long term, and they'll be partying there. So airplanes going in and coming out are not gonna be an issue. It's just those people going to the airport, Buffalo Airport, whatnot. So it's gonna be 1,000 people roughly departing in the airport, so that's a normal day. So that's not the issue. It's this um, the people that are coming in for the long term. And also, too, remember, Sunday is the end of spring break. So that's going to open up
Ooh.
another can of worms of people coming in. So you want to just keep on adding insult to injury. So that's what I say.
So
Like,
it's
it's
about
just a,
planning and
so
knowing ahead of time. Listen, I was out 2 days ago and I had to go towards the cobblestone district, right? And I'm leaving dinner and I'm driving and I'm like, what is going on here? There's cars everywhere. I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm like, the Drake concert. There was cars everywhere. The point of
right.
the saying is that I didn't know about it and I ran right into it. Had I known about it, I would have went a different way. So I think what we're here is getting information. Listen, we only have a few more minutes because we're going to bring Debbie on to talk a little
No,
about some stuff. The role of equity, right? When we're talking about services, you talked about those people are going to do it, but there are going to be some vulnerable communities, right? And this is what you are getting at, right?
yeah.
How do we do that? Sometimes people say, well, in one part of the town catches a cold, another one gets pneumonia. And it's really depending on this, sometimes how people are living or what we're doing. That's why we're out here to think about that. That's why we reach out to block clubs and organizations. This idea of the services and how some people might need a different approach or getting information differently like that. Tell me what that plays in it. I know we only got, I think I'm gonna probably give you maybe 30 seconds or a minute with that.
Well,
And
the
I'm gonna,
thing is, I mean, for the storm, we put a lot of emphasis on the East Buffalo side, heavily impacted in the past history with the grid, national grid, and there was just a whole mess of. And then based on how the warming center is brought up, we used Dell and Grider as a logistic as a pod to offshoot into the other ones in the case like this. So we looked at who's the most vulnerable based on past experience. Delvin Grider was ahead, and then we had identified two other centers also that were in that focus area because of we know the service is bad, we know the infrastructure is poor, and we got in there. I'm still looking at ways to communicate to the communities when all power and all communication systems fail, which is probably the hardest thing. So I'm working on things as we speak now for that, maintain that communication when all communication fails. How do we fix that? How do I get that message to you? So that is something that I've been working on pretty aggressively. We're going to field test it during the eclipse, and then we can go from there. So that there's a lot of things that are going on. Is I'm using the eclipse to evaluate and test new items in the event of really something affecting our infrastructure, we can't really operate, right? So how do we get that message out? So in just not just providing the services, essential services for the day of and the days after, but we're using that as a foundation to go forward and test other things going up on the lawyer that we can implement on any kind of an incident.
Great, great. So listen, Tom, this has been great. I think we're going to have to bring you for a part two, because I think this is honestly, this is a lot of good information. I'm going to also let you know that we have a lot of partners here that we work with. So we have some homework that we're going to be working together.
Sure.
Some people volunteer, try to get the search piece up and running.
Yep.
Going to have to look for some funding, but we'll talk a little bit about that.
Well,
We
there's one thing with the funding. You might be. I mean, we use donators on the outside in the feds, and even the state. We've got
Hey,
things that
hey,
donated. And people want to do it because you got to get there's a knapsack and there's like a kit that you get. So that's how
make
we
it
did the
happen.
city. Yeah. So I mean that's probably the easy
Good.
thing out of it. The hard thing is
And
probably
what
just
we find
attending
out,
the classes.
and I think we can do that. Neighborhoods all do this, right? And so it's just a
Yep.
matter of some uniformity, but also learning from what neighborhoods are doing. Let me bring, let me say thank you, Tom. Let me bring Debbie
Yeah.
Lombardo on. She is the president of the Board of Block Clubs in Erie County. Debbie, how you
Hey,
doing?
Hi.
Yeah.
gentlemen,
Hi.
not to be rude, I just wanted to make sure I lifted up one of our task force members who had a question prior to our change in topic back to the eclipse. Dana, if you don't mind just getting your
Go ahead.
question out.
Go ahead. You're muted, Dana. So I was trying to add that my office was actually one of the original organizers of CERT in the area, and I've offered my services. Again, funding had dried up, but I am probably the only CERT certified or trained CERT trainer in the area still, and I'm happy to help. And I have manuals. I know the curriculum like the back of my hand. I used to work closely with the former fire commissioner and our emergency manager to offer those programs. And I would be happy to do it again. So Thomas, I'll send you an email
please.
just to introduce myself, and then, any initiative that goes forward, I'd love to be involved.
Well,
Good.
thank
So
you, Dan. Thank you.
we'll all make it happen. I do. You know what? I knew that, Dana. My apologies for not lifting that up because you mentioned that to us before. We may even also have. I'm going to talk to Malika. We're getting a new AmeriCorps member that might be able to help in this all together too. So this was a great meeting. We got some homework that we got to do. We're going to get back and we're going to let the community know about this. Debbie.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you a little more than 1 minute. So,
No, I
go
just
ahead.
need a minute. No, everybody's time is very valuable, so I understand it. Yep. So hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. Nice to see some of my team on the block chat as well. Tom, we're looking forward to working with you. The Board of Block Clubs is always willing to participate and provide help and get the information out as well. We do have a meeting coming up. It is going to be at the Moot Center. Pardon me, I have a slight cold, so if I sound a little weird, that's why. March 28th at 6 p.m. Details will be coming out very shortly. We're just adding the finishing touches. I will be emailing you, Tom, to have you come out and speak to our group. We do get a nice turnout, anywhere from 30 to 50 people. So we look forward to meeting you in person and working along with that, as well as our team from the Division of Citizen Services. And then we have some surprises that'll be coming up in the near future. The team from the Board of Block Clubs has been working on some new speakers and some new ideas that are coming out. So we look forward to seeing you. And of course, always thank you for letting us be on the block chat. And I don't really have much more than that. Again, my apologies for, my little thing going on here. But it's always nice to see everybody here, and I see a lot of new people's names. So please, if you have anything that you would like the Board of Block Clubs to get out and share, we have a Facebook, Instagram. Our social media is really, really good. And Dr. Cortesia always makes sure that it gets out there in a timely fashion. And you just email bobcbuffalo@gmail.com. And
Listen,
I think that's it.
I call the Border Block because you're the special sauce, right, to any burger. So you can't have a burger without having that special sauce. So thank you very
Well,
much
thank you.
for all of what you do. You had a great meeting last meeting that I was there. And I look forward to your one-on-ones meetings too. So listen, I have stolen 2 minutes of your time. I'm going to endeavor at the next couple of meetings to get that back to you. This was a great meeting. I want to say thank you to Tom. Thank you to all of the speakers and the questions, to Debbie and to my staff who has been doing some outstanding stuff. I can't say enough for those folks. And I do too have a surprise in the next few weeks. Stay tuned to 311. We're close. We're getting a brand new kind of 311 here. We've been working on it. We started about 4 or 5 months ago. So we're operating our current one, and we're going to be switching over. So all of those different things that people were saying, oh, I want this, that, whatever. We've been listening. And so we're going to update everything, new online portal, new self-service, new web-based, everything like that too. And it's going to be intuitive. We're going to have chat box. That's it. Have a great weekend. Let's be safe. And we'll see you next week. We have another great speakers. We're going to have the astrolog, Mike. Who we're going to have speaking next week? Or
his
So
name is
actually,
Mike Comfort. Go ahead, Nicole.
our next block chat is going to be with Kasley Killiam, and she is the founder of the social isolation organization that works to help end that. That's actually one of our biggest mental health crises right now. And then
Social
we're going to have a speaker
Mike
from
Humphrey.
the Buffalo Astronomical Society the week after. So almost right before the eclipse on the 29th, he should be coming in to speak.
Okay. All right. I gotta find 3 minutes. Take care, guys. All right. Take care, guys. And if you need a speaker, you want to come in, let us know. All right. And we'll put you on. Okay. All right. Take care.
Thanks, Al.
Bye, everybody.